Well, good morning, everybody. As I'm sure many of you have heard, Pennsylvania was just called for former Vice President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. by several networks. That brings Joe Biden's electoral vote count to 284, which is enough for him to win the presidential election. This is huge. The Trump campaign is obviously still mounting legal challenges, particularly in the state of Pennsylvania, which is obviously a must-win for Trump. But it looks like Biden just took the cake there. Okay, so we're going to get into this. We're going to get into what Trump's legal challenges are right now, particularly in Pennsylvania. We're going to talk about what Joe Biden said last night in his speech from Wilmington, Delaware, and we're going to talk about what lame duck stimulus could mean. I see some people in the comments saying, rumor spreader, no, he hasn't. Well, okay, we're going to talk about it. The reason I put Biden won is because the networks are calling a victory for Biden. They say that Biden has won in Pennsylvania. What does this mean for stimulus? I hear that. I see that question here. First, though, let's talk about what Joe Biden said last night was going to be his agenda for the next 4 years before we get into Trump's challenges in Pennsylvania. Joe Biden last night, he did not outright declare victory, although I'm fairly confident he will today. He brought up how he flipped Georgia and Pennsylvania and how he's going to win them. He talked about leading in Arizona and Nevada. He said he's proud that he will be the first Democrat to win Arizona in 24 years and the first Democrat to win Georgia in 28 years. He says he's proud that he rebuilt the blue wall in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He talked about how his campaign is on track for over 300 electoral college votes. That is certainly the case. He obviously, if he holds on to his leads in Arizona and Nevada and Georgia, he'll be at 306. A huge day, huge news, obviously. Also, Biden highlighted how nationwide he garnered over 74 million popular votes, more than any other presidential ticket has received in the history of our country, and how he's currently beating Trump by over 4 million of the popular votes. He said that he interprets this as a mandate from Americans on 4 key issues. 1, COVID-19. 2, the economy. 3, climate change. And 4, systemic racism. He said the people have made it clear that they want the country to come together, not continue to pull apart, implying that the past 4 years of the Trump presidency has in fact pulled the country apart. He said that earlier he and Kamala Harris met with public health and economic experts to discuss strategy for the public health and economic crises facing our nation in the wake of COVID-19. He commented on the spread of COVID-19 and expressed sympathy for those who have lost loved ones to COVID-19, and Biden said that on day 1, he is going to put his plan to control the virus in action. He said that while we can't save any of the lives that have been lost, we can save a lot of lives in the months ahead. Biden talked about the millions of Americans in unemployment and how the Biden economic plan will put us on a strong path to recovery. He urged the American people to remain calm and patient throughout the remainder of the election process. He reiterated the belief that democracy works. He said, "Your vote will be counted. I don't care how hard people try to stop it. I will not let it happen. People will be heard. Our journey toward a more perfect union keeps moving on." Biden said that strong disagreements are inevitable in a democracy and that strong disagreements are healthy. They are a sign of vigorous debate and deeply held views. But he said that we must remember that the purpose of politics is not warfare and fighting. It's to solve problems, to guarantee justice, to give everybody a fair shot, and to improve the lives of the American people. He said Democrats and Republicans may be opponents, but they are not enemies. They are Americans first and foremost. He called for Americans to put the anger and demonization of each other behind us, saying it's time for us to come together as a nation and heal, that it's not going to be easy, but we have to try. Biden said his responsibility as president will be to represent the whole nation and that he will work as hard for those who voted against him as for those who voted for him. He said that is the job of the president, a duty of care for all Americans, irrespective of political party, and that those 4 mandates, work on COVID-19, the economy, climate change, and racial injustice, leave no time to waste on partisan warfare. He said that right now we have an incredible opportunity to build the future we want for our kids and grandkids, and that he has never been more optimistic about the future of the United States, and that it can own the 21st century if we just remember who we are. Biden said, and I quote, "This is the United States of America, and there has never been anything we've been unable to do when we've done it together." Before I move on to the Trump challenges, what they're challenging in Pennsylvania right now, I just want to look at the comments here. All right, a lot of people saying fraud, fraud, fraud. Destiny Jordan says, going to a funeral for a person that's always been there for me, and a ton of other people. I'm sorry to hear that, Destiny. Justice Harvey is not the president yet. That's correct. Not until January 20th. Leslie Hayes says this will be interesting and right all at the same time. I sure hope not. I hope that this is a peaceful transition. Now let's talk about what the Trump campaign is up to right now. Okay, as for the Trump campaign's legal challenges to the election results, many of them center on Pennsylvania. That was the state that was just called for Joe Biden by major news networks, which put him over the 270 in order to win. Okay. So what's the Trump campaign doing in Pennsylvania? Well, yesterday, the Republican Party of Pennsylvania requested that the Supreme Court mandates that ballots arriving after Election Day be sequestered from other ballots, okay? Because what Pennsylvania is doing right now is they say, all right, as long as the ballot is mailed by Election Day, but received within 3 days after Election Day, we're still going to count it. So the Republican Party strategy here is, okay, we're going to make the county sequester these ballots separately. The Supreme Court said, yes, Pennsylvania counties, you should do that, right? With the Republican final strategy here being for the Supreme Court to eventually say that those ballots received up to 3 days after Election Day are invalid. However, many networks are saying that those numbers of ballots, the ones received after Election Day, likely too small a number to make a difference anyway. The Trump campaign did suffer a legal defeat in Nevada late yesterday when a federal judge denied the request to change the way that ballots are counted in Clark County. Clark County, county that has Las Vegas, over 70% of Nevadans live in Clark County. Nevertheless, despite that setback, Trump campaign general counsel Matt Morgan said yesterday that this election is not over. Trump is obviously tweeting that this election is not over. Yesterday evening, he tweeted that legal proceedings are now just beginning. However, in private, at least according to reporting by the Wall Street Journal, some of Trump's advisors are telling him to prepare for a loss in this race. All right, now let's talk about stimulus here. What's going on with stimulus? So, lame duck stimulus. I told you earlier this week that Mitch McConnell is interested in passing stimulus before the end of the year. So are Democrats, right? So is Nancy Pelosi. But yesterday I told you that Pelosi at her press conference dug into her position and is saying that it's Republicans that have to come back to the table to meet her with stimulus and her demands. Despite her loss of leverage, evidenced in Democrats' recent House losses. They didn't lose the House, right? But Republicans definitely flipped a lot of House seats. Okay, if you missed my House election update, you can watch that for more on that. So what's the situation? Well, it's questionable at this point whether the White House, if Trump does accept loss, it's questionable whether the Trump White House will continue to negotiate via people like Steven Mnuchin and Mark Meadows with Nancy Pelosi. That's very questionable at this point. Perhaps the lame duck White House will simply work something out with Mitch McConnell and then see what happens, rather than negotiating directly with Pelosi anymore. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow told reporters yesterday that the White House has already started to talk to Mitch McConnell about a stimulus package. Kudlow said we would like to negotiate a package and that it would be targeted, not something at $2 or $3 trillion. The reporter asked Kudlow, okay, Larry, what does that mean? Does that mean that the White House is kind of abandoning the $1.9 trillion proposal put together by Steven Mnuchin that he put forth to Nancy Pelosi before the election? Kudlow simply said, we haven't really even talked about numbers yet. The reporter asked Kudlow directly, is the White House done speaking with Pelosi on stimulus? Kudlow said, I would just say right now we're communicating, with Senator McConnell. That's not a great sign, right? Because, look, the jobs report yesterday, right, came back better than it was the month before. Unemployment rate down to 6.9%, right? Senate Republicans view that as, a huge win. What did McConnell say? McConnell called yesterday's jobs report stunning, and the recent GDP data as indicative that our economy is moving back to get on its feet, and that this new data should affect the size of any additional rescue package, viewing it as justification for the next bill being, well, the Republicans' favorite word when it comes to stimulus, skinny. Okay. McConnell reaffirmed yesterday that he thinks another stimulus package is in order, but this new data reinforces his argument that it should be something smaller than what Pelosi wants. We'll see what happens, but Republicans do love their skinny stimulus bills. Remember their recent bill, $500 billion, $500 billion. What was in there? More money for schools, more money for testing, another round of PPP, right? The liability protections, but that was basically it. No stimulus checks, right? I mean, it's skinny. Yesterday, Republican Senator Roy Blunt dug in on the Republican position, saying the liberal agenda was rejected by voters. There is no mandate in this election. They would like the government to work. No blue wave, no mandate. Okay, so what does he mean by that? Well, I think what he's saying there is that, yes, while the people may have rejected Donald Trump in this election, this senator's opinion is that the American people did not embrace necessarily the liberal agenda as evidenced by the House losses for Democrats. Roy Blunt said they just want the government to work, no blue wave, no mandate. He did not answer whether Republicans would go up from the $500 billion skinny bill, but he did say it would be incredibly helpful for lawmakers and the White House to strike a deal before the end of the year. He said it would be to everybody's advantage if it wasn't the lame duck, but we'll see what everybody's attitude is. Meanwhile, yesterday, once again, Nancy Pelosi dug in on her position. She told reporters that a skinny bill is not in the cards because it won't do enough to crush the virus. Note that Pelosi's big criticism of Republican stimulus proposals recently has not necessarily been a certain dollar amount, but that she feels that they don't adequately address the COVID-19 crisis. So, what's the story here? Many lawmakers, including McConnell and Pelosi, are verbalizing. They're saying that they want lame duck stimulus to happen, but actions, of course, speak louder than words. All right, let me go back to the comments here. Charles, Logan, what do you mean if Trump accepts the loss as of January 20th? Yeah, so I mean, obviously on January 20th on Inauguration Day, if Trump stays in the White House, he will be trespassing. But I'm just talking about the lame duck session, right? I mean, how long will it take for Trump to accept the loss here, right? I mean, if he drags this thing on all the way up to January 20th, where he won't care about stimulus, obviously, right? So that's what I mean by that. Dutch boy, Trump never had COVID. It was a big lie. By the way, did you guys hear that Mark Meadows got COVID? Yeah, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows contracted COVID-19. This was confirmed by a senior administration official last night. They said that a Trump campaign advisor also tested positive, as well as 4 other White House officials. So Mark Meadows tested positive for COVID-19 on Wednesday. All right, a lot of people saying that they're going to find rigged votes. And my comment on that, I mean, I went over that here in this live stream, but my comment on that is just, if there were rigged votes, if there was some part of this election that was rigged one way or the other, I hope that our system would weed that out. Okay. Some people have interpreted kind of my disposition toward the Trump legal challenges as negative. No, I'm just telling you what I see. They have every right to challenge things in this election. And judges have every right to say, yeah, that challenge is invalid as well. Okay, that's the way our process works, and I'm glad to see it working that way. Every vote should be counted. Every legitimate vote should be counted. If there are legitimate votes, illegitimate votes, they should not be counted. John Murray, Trump is saying he is moving forward with lawsuits. Yes, yes, he certainly is. Let's go to his Twitter feed. See what Trump is saying this morning. All right, so, well, just an hour ago, Trump said I won this election by a lot. Obviously, Twitter is flagging that. Trump said he's having a big press conference today. Is he speaking right now? Probably. All right, and then obviously he has a lot of these. Trump saying people were screaming, "Stop the count, we demand transparency." Oh boy. Trump says tens of thousands of votes were illegally received after 8 p.m. on Election Day and easily changed the results in Pennsylvania and certain other razor-thin states. So we talked about that previously in the live stream. So Trump's obviously not very happy right now. Eileen, patience and on to the Georgia runoffs. Yes, so essentially the next big election that will really affect us on the national scale are those Georgia runoff elections, which will be held on January 5th. Kenneth Cadwell, judges have already said his legal challenges are invalid. Yes, so in several states, we talked about Nevada this morning, we talked about other states previously this week, judges have rejected several challenges. Brian, all right, see a lot of partisanship in the comments, of course. All right, B-Rad, time to go grocery shopping. See ya. You're welcome, D. Martorelli has an interesting perspective here. Says, I think Trump will pass stimulus probably more than they were asking for it because the debt won't be his problem anymore. Yeah, I mean, what will Trump's disposition, once Trump accepts his loss, right, what will be his disposition toward lame duck stimulus? That's really anybody's guess at this point. Some people in the Trump camp are saying, well, his ex-chief of staff, who's now in Ireland, said that he expects Trump to want to run again in 2024. If that's the case, maybe Trump will be, well, wanting to end with a bang. Will Trump be concerned with his legacy, or will he just be so angry about the results of the election? I really don't know. But yeah, I don't think that the debt was ever really a concern for Trump here. His criticisms for Nancy Pelosi, like the HEROES Act and the updated HEROES Act, wasn't really the dollar amount. It was more the contents of it, right? You know, this is bailing out poorly run blue states, right? Things of that nature. Vidalto, you're welcome. Smoke festivities. Mitch will stop it in his tracks anyway. Destiny, you are very welcome. I'll go back here. So John Heyman, how old will he be in 2024? Well, Trump is 74 right now. So he would be 78 if that election, if he ran again. Renee, thank you, looking for live update. You're welcome. Like live update. These are fun. Fat Penguin, yes, both of them will be quite old. In 2024, these are the two oldest presidential, candidates. Joe would be in his 80s, right? So, but the question, of course, is, even if Trump does try to run in 2024, would he get past the primaries, right? Would Republicans want to put forth somebody who lost 4 years prior against the incumbent administration? Probably not, right? Shalana 76, I thought they were still counting. Well, the Associated Press has now called Pennsylvania for Biden. Okay. Fox News is, at this point, the only major TV network to not have called the presidential race for Joe Biden. Okay, so yes, they're still counting votes. They will continue to count votes until every vote is counted. But at this point, most networks have called the race for Joe Biden. So. And for the kill, what about stimulus? Yeah, I mean, that is a big question mark. Pelosi did lose seats in the House, right? Oh, she didn't lose her seat, but the Democrats are going to lose a significant number of seats in the House. They'll retain their majority. But Pelosi the way she's posturing herself about stimulus right now, it doesn't seem that she thinks she's really lost a whole lot of leverage here. She still thinks the Republicans need to come back to the table to her. And Republicans are reiterating that the jobs report and the recent Q3 GDP data indicate that, yeah, we don't need any number close to Pelosi's number. We want skinny. How will that resolve itself is anybody's guess at this point. Okay, if lame duck stimulus is not accomplished, well, then we'll be looking into stimulus during the Biden administration. Will Noel McConnell be able to work something out with Pelosi and Biden? Not sure. I think they will eventually. Will it be massive as it would have been if there's a Democratic sweep? No. Will it be something? Probably. Okay. Going into 2021. During the lame duck, it's really anybody's guess right now. I think a lot of it hinges on the White House's how they feel and how quickly they accept the loss here. Alan Venable, any way Trump can end up winning. At this point, it would take successful legal challenges, particularly in Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is at this point a must-win state for him. Also, the recounts, right? So, look, if Trump mounts successful legal challenges, and so far they haven't been very successful. Okay, sure. Okay, that's like, a chance there. If during these recounts, because Georgia's going to have a recount, they might have a recount in Pennsylvania if the margin is less than 0.5%. I think they're getting pretty close there. I'm not sure if we're in recount territory there. Sure, something could come up, but the chances of that are just so remotely slim. And it would have to be in multiple states, right? It's not like, what was it, Florida in 2000, the 2000 presidential race where, okay, it was just Florida. We're just looking at Florida and contesting Florida. The Trump campaign would have to have major legal victories, right? Successful recounts in their favor in several states. And I think the odds of that happening are just astronomically low, okay? Jessica Summer, 2 Senate seats in Georgia. Mitch McConnell isn't majority leader yet. Yeah, that's true. If you saw my Senate update, I went over the Georgia regular election as well as the Georgia special election and expressed my sentiment why I think that Republicans will win at least one of those seats and retain the Senate majority into 2021. Billy Stillman, thank you for the updates. You're welcome, Billy. Alan, thanks, Logan. Love your channel. Listen every day. Thanks, Alan. I appreciate it. Jetlag, who thinks Trump supporters will really start a civil war? I sure hope not. I sure hope not. I see a lot of comments still about, hey, can Trump still win? I mean, look, we've gone over the legal challenges this week. I talked about the legal challenges previously. In this video in the live stream yesterday, I went over all the recount rules for the various states, the remaining battleground states, including Pennsylvania, which has now been called. Okay. It looks like Joe Biden just made a statement. With the campaign over, it's time to put the anger and the harsh rhetoric behind us and come together as a nation. We are the United States of America, and there's nothing we can't do if we do it together. Biden did not mention Donald Trump in his statement. So basically a much shorter summary of what he said last night in his speech from Wilmington. How many votes did my man Kanye get? Last I heard, Kanye got 60,000 votes. My wife showed me a funny Kanye Instagram meme last night. It was something to the effect of, I got 60,000 votes, but my wife wasn't one of them, or something like that. It was funny. Kim Giddle, hopefully we'll get some female candidates in 2024. Well, I don't want to be disrespectful here and make any assumptions here, but Biden, is in his late 70s at this point. Will we see Biden in 2024, or will we see Kamala Harris in 2024? Mel Catcher, you're still going to be on here to keep up and maybe everyone getting a check. Yeah, I mean, doing these updates is pretty fun for me at this point. So I'll still be talking about something. I mean, we'll still be back to, stimulus negotiations again after the election. I mean, they might not be negotiations between Mnuchin and Pelosi, but it could just be, okay, what negotiations between the White House and McConnell and Pelosi. But yeah, there's always something to talk about. Guitar Man, well, I guess I'll go eat a pepper. Don't eat a Carolina Reaper, please. Anna Clayton, you're welcome. No Man's Trading, good job as always, Logan. Now go get on with reality. Okay, there's this ugly ad here. I'm going to go down here. So if you're just joining us, Associated Press and other networks have just called Pennsylvania for Biden. And as a result, many networks have called Biden as the winner in the 2020 election. Michelle Riley, if Biden dies in office with his vice president, will his vice president only be able to run once or twice still? I'm not an election law expert, but I believe that, in the situation where that happens, Kamala Harris would be able to run twice. You're welcome, Hope. Michael, you say you're from Las Vegas. I hope everything is calm there right now. Daphne says, I like when you say you're CPA. Thanks, Daphne. I appreciate that. A couple people have said that. A couple people have said it might come off as pretentious, so I'm still working through that. Maybe I'll bring that back. Marianne Galloway isn't one yet. There's still a chance for President Trump. Yeah, there is certainly a chance, right? But I think the chance is just, we're talking about 0.01%. He would not only have to, he would have to surmount successful legal challenges in not just one, but several states. And recounts would have to work in his favor in not just one, but several states. And something like that has not ever happened previously. So pretty slim odds. Bobby the Handsome Guy Johnson, multiple stimulus checks coming. Well, if there is lame duck stimulus, I think it will be skinny. In terms of multiple stimulus checks, not if McConnell keeps the Senate, right? So all eyes really on those Georgia runoffs in January. Crystal, what about our unemployment if we exhausted it all? Yeah, I mean, that would have to be negotiated as part of another stimulus package, kind of extending that boost in the length of unemployment, right? They did that in the CARES Act for, 13 weeks, right? We know that many Democrats want to extend that even longer, so you can continue to get unemployment even longer after your state time runs out. But I don't know if that will be something that the Republican Senate will reasonably consider. I don't think that would be in the cards for them, unfortunately. Okay, I'm curious, for those of you who are in states that are contentious in this election, what's going on? Is it crazy there, on the streets? I mean, I'm here in California. It's a blue state, to say the least. So, but I'm curious if you're in Pennsylvania, if you're in Nevada, right? Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona. What's the word on the street there right now? What's the scene on the ground? Journeys in the crazy world. There'll be no more unemployment Republicans running the Senate. Yeah. So Mitch McConnell retains this. I mean, if Mitch McConnell retains the Senate, could make things very difficult for Democrats to get what they want in terms of another stimulus bill. Okay. However, I will say though that there will not exist the kind of animosity between Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell that there existed between, say, Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi. There just won't be. I mean, Biden and McConnell served together in the Senate for over 2 decades. There is, and I would say there's even a friendship, or at least some kind of a friendship there. So I don't think that when things are negotiated between the Democratic White House or the Democratic House of Representatives and Mitch McConnell, who will become the most powerful Republican in the country, or at least in Washington, D.C., that it will be quite as contentious as the Trump-Pelosi relationship. All right, Jerry's in the crazy world. My part of Illinois, nothing's going on. Good to hear. Yeah, because going into this election, people were just, people were very scared of, riots and protests getting out of control. But thankfully, it looks like that's not happening as severely as people thought it would be. Renee, I'm in New York, so I'm in a blue state. Will Biden take away SSI? No. Rub jelly on me. Hopefully Biden lives up to his promise of being a bipartisan president like he says. You know how politicians are, though. I won't be holding my breath. Yeah. I mean, that's our hope with any president, right? I mean, if you saw his speech last night, I kind of went over the key points earlier this live stream, but he was talking about how he wants to be the president for all Americans, not just those who voted for him. A very bipartisan message. He did touch on some things that probably ruffle some Republicans' feathers. He said one of the mandates that he feels the American people has given him is to deal with climate change. That will ruffle some Republican feathers, right? He also brought up, he said another mandate was systemic racism that the American people have put on him to deal with. So, but overall, though, I think his message was something that would resonate with Republicans as well as Democrats. Louise, you're welcome. Morning Sate tells us to care about the local elections. Yes, do definitely care about the local elections. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people who, I don't like Biden or Trump, so I'm not going to vote this election. Well, okay, I mean, I get it if you don't like Biden or Trump, but those local elections, which arguably you have more of a voice in. I mean, we had a local election here a few years back. I think it was decided by less than 50 votes or something like this. And these are people who really make, a difference in your on the ground life, right? So I definitely agree with that. Jai, eat it, Chip Logan. Good morning, Dennard. Sue Anderson. Hi, Sue. How you doing? KP says stop the hate. You're welcome, Barb. John Bankett, sneak a Packy chip in Biden's cornflakes. Oh, man. That sounds cruel, man. John Edward, thank you for all your hard work. You're welcome. Casey, Logan, what about all the legal challenges going on? Do you think it would change the outcome? So, we touched on the legal challenges a bit earlier in the live stream. It's just Trump would not only have to be victorious with legal challenges in one state. They would have to be multiple states. And so far, while some things have worked in the Trump's, camp's favor, they've been small victories on the legal front, right? Like, oh, you can now stand closer to observing the, what was it? Now both Republicans and Democrats, you can stand like 6 feet away, right, to observe the polls, the votes being counted, right? So it's things like that. Not anything like super massive that would, really change the the result here, right? Nevertheless, Donald Trump did tweet yesterday, legal proceedings are just beginning. We know he has assembled his legal team who is, dead set on challenging several of these races. Sernda says, good morning, America. I pray that America can get back on its feet because we have a lot of recovery to do. God bless America. I agree. Marcus Mays is asking about student loan forgiveness and stimulus. So, student loan forgiveness, in terms of forgiveness, right? Not just stopping payments, right? And putting the interest rate to 0%, right? But actually forgiveness. The only stimulus proposal that put that forth with that $10,000 limit was the HEROES Act. I do not think that if Republicans retain the Senate, that's why we got to keep our eyes on those Georgia races, that student loan forgiveness would be in the cards for stimulus, unfortunately. I just don't think that I don't think that a Republican Senate would go for that, unfortunately. Okay, we have kind of another election update here. Nevada has just been called for Joe Biden. So now what does that bring Joe Biden to? That brings him to 279 electoral votes. Right. So Nevada, in addition to Pennsylvania, which was called earlier today, Nevada has now been called for Joe Biden. So kind of going back to that previous, comment. So now that, Wisconsin, Trump is challenging things in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, right, Arizona. But it's just, he would have to be successful in so many places, and those legal challenges have not had much success so far. That's why I don't think that that he'll be able to overcome that. I think the odds are just astronomically small. Doe Beasy, how about stimulus checks and unemployment? That's the question, isn't it? I think during the lame duck session, it might be tough. It really might be tough. Indications are kind of right now that the White House doesn't want to talk to Pelosi anymore, and that they might let Mitch McConnell kind of run the show. They might negotiate with Mitch McConnell and then let Mitch McConnell try to work things out with Nancy Pelosi. But of course, Mitch McConnell, he said yesterday, look at those jobs numbers, unemployment 6.9%, look at the GDP recovery. He interprets that data as meaning that we need smaller stimulus, skinny stimulus, not a huge package like Pelosi wants. Could they be open to, extending unemployment to some degree? Maybe, but the unemployment rate is going down according to those jobs reports. I don't know if Republicans are too keen on that. Okay, another round of stimulus check. Man, I hope so. We know that Republicans have put that forth, for example, in the HEALS Act, but in these recent skinny bills, they haven't, unfortunately. Guitar Man, I don't think Trump will do any good on those lawsuits. Yeah, I think it's a stretch. I think those lawsuits are a huge stretch, and that's why these networks are comfortable calling the race for Joe Biden. Nancy Pelosi just released a statement. Let's look at it here. I have not seen it yet. This is just hot off the press. Press release November 7th. Speaker Nancy Pelosi issued this statement on the election. Let me make myself smaller. Of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Today marks the dawning of a new day of hope for America. A record-shattering 75 million Americans cast their ballots to elect Joe Biden President of the United States. A historic victory that has handed Democrats a mandate for action. In President-elect Joe Biden, Americans elected a leader ready on day one to finally begin to crush the coronavirus so we can safely reopen our economy and schools. In President-elect Biden, the American people delivered a mandate for lower health costs, a mandate for creating bigger paychecks by rebuilding America's infrastructure, and a mandate for cleaner government that works for the public interest, not special interests. And in President-elect Biden, they have elected a unifier who values faith, family, and community, and who will work tirelessly to heal our nation. President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris won with a strong margin, and they will have a strong Democratic House majority by their side. Working together, we have the opportunity to deliver extraordinary progress for the people. So nothing too controversial here, more of simply a pretty plain congratulations, and that's it. I'll go back to the comments here. Morning Saint, California fumbled and voted Pelosi. That was a terrible choice, but that's the 12th in California. Yeah, so Pelosi basically handles that district. I do not know why people want, Republicans run against her there. Let me see if I can pull up that election. Yeah, it's pretty crazy there. And it wasn't even between Pelosi and a Republican. It was between Pelosi and a Democrat, right? All right, here we go. But still, Pelosi just handles it, right? Like she just dominates in that district. Here we go. Yeah, look at that, 78.8%. Right. And, I know there's chat and talks about, Pelosi's not, Democrats in the House aren't going to reelect Pelosi as Speaker. I think they will. I think they will. I know that she's not popular among many moderate Democrats in the House. If you saw my House election update yesterday, we saw that some, Democratic House members were they weren't too happy about the results of the election. We know that many Democrats in that Problem Solvers Caucus wanted Nancy to take the deal, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that her position as Speaker of the House is fairly secure. All right, let's go back to So both Pennsylvania and Nevada were called this morning for Joe Biden. Fred Robleski, do you think that Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve will step in and get the American people some type of stimulus? So Jerome Powell, like every time he speaks, like literally every time he talks, he says that Congress should pass more stimulus. Now, there is monetary stimulus and there is fiscal stimulus. Okay, Jerome Powell cannot control the fiscal stimulus. He's just in charge of the monetary stimulus, interest rates, things like that. So while he can urge Congress to adopt more fiscal stimulus, to pass more stimulus bill, which Jerome Powell has basically every time Jerome Powell opens his mouth, it's like more stimulus, more stimulus, more stimulus. We need more stimulus, right? But unfortunately, Jerome Powell is not Congress. He is the chair of the Fed. He can urge stimulus and say, "Hey, Congress, you need to pass more stimulus ASAP." But he's not in a position to be able to do that. Morning, say I tune in late and wonder what's your opinion on Biden presidency versus a Trump presidency, second Trump presidency. Well, I do try not to be too partisan here. I will say, just objectively speaking, with stimulus, I think that frankly, it was the Senate race that is probably more relevant to the size of the next stimulus. But in terms of Biden presidency versus Trump presidency, I hope that there will be less kind of division in this country than there was under Trump. I'll say that much. But I'm not going to get too deep here into policies. Now, I will say, though, that a lot of the promises and the goals and things that were talked about by the Biden campaign early on, I think a lot of those will be thwarted if Republicans retain control of the Senate. Okay, corporate tax hikes, for example, right? The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act passed by Trump set a flat rate on corporate taxes to 21%. Okay, corporations love that. Stock market loved that. I think if it was a Democratic sweep, then there would be companies that would not like that as much, right? They would probably see Biden as someone who would want to raise taxes, right? He does want to raise taxes on corporations, but with McConnell's Senate, I don't think that's going to happen. So more so than the president, I think that the Senate, at least with respect to stimulus, is kind of the key player here. Edward Stevens, Nevada also called. Yes, that is correct. Nevada has also been called for Joe Biden. Okay. Rudy Giuliani says that the president will not concede, at least not today. That's what Giuliani said today in Philadelphia. Apparently, on Fox News, we have is this true? We have a Fox News reporter calling Biden president-elect. That's true. That happened. I don't think Fox News yet has called the election for Biden. Let's see here. Has Fox News called it for Biden yet? Okay. Well, yeah. You can see it right here. They have it on the screen here. Fox News. Joe Biden elected 46th president. Look at that. Looks like Fox News has called it as well. All right, folks. What is it? So it's 9:30 here. I think my son's going to wake up soon. So I'm going to call it there. I'm not sure if I will be doing more election-specific updates. I think I might just kind of blend it in with a COVID stimulus election update now that the presidential election has essentially been called for Joe Biden. Might be doing more election updates as we get up to those Georgia special elections. But that's going to be closer to the end of the year in early January, as those races will be on January 5th. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And I will see you in the next video. Have a great Saturday. Have a great week.